Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Advanced Bass Fishing, and really appreciate you guys coming by the channel to watch today's video. And guys, today I want to talk a little bit about how you can compete in the era of, advanced technology, forward-facing sonar, stuff like that, if you are resistant to that technology like myself. If you're just, traditional old-school bass angler and you want to be competitive, maybe you fish a club tournament or maybe buddy tournaments or whatever, or if you just want to be successful in general, how you can be successful, in this particular age of technology by resisting that technology. So I want to give you guys some tips and advice on how to do that in today's episode. Also, guys, thank you very much for getting started. Just a big thank you to everybody that's taken time to subscribe here to Advanced Bass Fishing and use all the links I put in the description. If you guys are using those links, I really appreciate it. You're doing a lot to support the channel. And also, guys, anybody interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me, you can do that by going to my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Professional Angler, and just shoot me a private message, and I'll get you the details for that. Do most of my lessons here in Missouri on Stockton and Table Rock Lake. Okay, guys, a lot of you guys that know me and follow my other channels, you know my stance on forward-facing sonar. I don't want to get into that off in that direction in this video. I just want to give you guys some practical advice on how you can do well in fishing without using advanced technology, because the last 2 years, guys, I fished the Toyota Series and the BFLs. And last year I finished 13th in the points for the Angler of the Year in Toyota Series and 14th in the points for the BFLs. And this year I finished in 14th place for the BFL points. Didn't do any good in the Toyotas because I had a really bad first tournament of the year, but I was competitive and I beat over 90% of the anglers in the field, and I don't even own forward-facing sonar. So I want to give you guys some tips and advice on how I do it and how you can do it as well. Okay, first of all, one of the things you got to realize is there's always several populations of bass that live in any lake. It's like every lake is not set up to where all the bass are to be caught on forward-facing sonar or out offshore, suspended or on the bottom or whatever, however they use it to catch them. There are bass, depending upon the water clarity and the depth of the lake that you fish, there's bass that use all depths, pretty much all year long. There's some bass that live shallow most of the year. Some bass live in the mid-depth. Some bass prefer deep water. Some bass prefer to suspend throughout the year. It's like people. People like to live in different, urban areas and country areas. The same with bass. They prefer different areas just based upon the individuality of the fish. If you're going to compete against the spotlighters, you have to focus on the shallow water fish all the time. You've got to spend 100% of your time looking for those fish and developing the techniques and patterns to catch them. So that's the number one thing, is you can't worry about how people are catching fish deeper than 10 feet. You have got to say, okay, I'm going to focus on nothing but 5 or 10 feet of water or shallower. I'm going to concentrate on catching shallow bass around visible targets or around cover that doesn't require that technology. I can pretty much say, guys, probably 95% of the bass that I have caught in the last 2 years in tournaments where I've done good in the tournaments, I didn't even need a depth finder on my boat. I was just fishing bank cover, so that's one thing you need to remember, is there's a lot of fish to be caught in shallow, visible cover. If you're going to do that, you have to maximize everything, because there's not as many fish shallow, and a lot of times those fish maybe are a little bit more spooky, but nevertheless, they're there to be caught. So one of the things that you have to do is you have to really educate yourself, and you have to become a master of the things that give you an advantage in shallow water, and that is your casting accuracy and your casting skills and your boat positioning. Guys, number one is don't ever underestimate the importance of casting accuracy and your boat position when fishing shallow water. You have got to master that. It's like if you are not a really good caster, and if you're not really good on a trolling motor, the number of bass that you catch in shallow water is going to be greatly reduced. If you don't do anything else from this video or learn anything else from this video, practice your casting and practice getting good on the trolling motor. You're going to see the most consistent success increase by doing those two things than you will any other thing that I can tell you here, especially if you got some work to do in those areas. You may already be an excellent caster and a boat worker, so that's fine if you are. The second with that is you have to determine and you have to understand the particular mood and the personality of the bass on any given day. Because based upon the day, based upon a lot of different factors, you know, the weather conditions and, you know, the how much activity or how much pressure a lake's getting, sometimes bass are in an active chasing mood and sometimes they're not. So one of the first things you have to do on any lake is you have to figure out if the bass are in a chasing mood or if they're not in a chasing mood. And that gives you a good indication of the lure category. You know, if they're in a chasing mood and they're aggressive, your baits like your crankbaits and your spinner baits and your chatter baits, lures that you reel horizontally through the water column are going to be really effective. And if they're not in a chasing mood, your slow baits are going to be better. Jigs, Texas rigs, shaky heads, Ned rigs, all that type of stuff. And how you figure that out is, number one, they're always going to bite slow baits. It's like they bite slow baits all the time. You have to figure out if they're going to be biting reaction baits first. And that's just try it for a couple hours. Try crankbaits, try spinner baits, whatever. If they're biting it, fine. If they're not, put them away and just focus on, you know, the slow stuff. Okay, once you've determined the best technique, you have to even narrow it down further. Let's say, for example, you figured out they want a jig and you've got some good cover to fish. You may got some lily pads to fish or docks or trees or something in the water. Okay, and you're getting a few bites on the jig. At that point, once you know that they are in the cover that you're fishing and that they're biting a jig, you have to tweak it and you have to experiment with different type of jig colors, different type of jig sizes, different type of trailer configurations until you really whittle it down to the bait that most of the fish want or the bigger fish want. So let's say, for example, you know, you're getting a few fish on a green pumpkin jig with a green pumpkin trailer. Sometimes you may go to a brown and orange with a green pumpkin dipped in chartreuse, or maybe you go to a black and blue. Just trying to figure out what they want. Sometimes maybe you're getting a bite on a jig and you've tried different variations and you don't know much different, but maybe they want a Texas rig brush hog, something like that. That is how you maximize your efficiency in shallow water, is by tweaking those fine points of the things that you know are working and paying a lot of attention to color variations, the profile and size of the lure, how you're working the lure, the cadence and the retrieve of the baits you're fishing. Your awareness for all the stuff that you're doing in shallow water has to be so much heightened, because if you're a spotlighter, guys, you don't have to have any awareness. You see them on your spotlight machine, you cast a forward facing sonar minnow over there and it's done. So it's a dumbed down way of fishing, but shallow water fishing is the most complex way to fish. It takes the most intelligence, it takes the most skill, it takes the most stealth, and it's the most rewarding. It's like, that is real bass fishing. When you're target fishing for bass, that is the most purest form of bass fishing that you'll ever have. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to throw that out there. Don't get discouraged if you're not a spotlighter. You don't need to be. You can still do good without it. Just focus on the stuff I talked about, and you'll hold your own for sure. Maybe even do better than they do a lot of times. So hope it helps out, guys. We'll talk later.